Soldiers in their towns angered many colonists. They made fun of soldiers' bright red uniforms, jackets, calling them mobsters and redcoats. Some of the soldiers became so angry that they destroyed colonial property. As anger between the colonists and the British soldiers grew, fights often broke out. One of the worst fights took place in Boston on March 5, 1770, when a large crowd of angry colonists gathered near several British soldiers. The colonists shouted at the soldiers and threw rocks and snowballs at them. When the crowd moved forward, they knocked down some of the soldiers. The soldiers opened fire. 3 of the colonists were killed on the spot, and 2 others died later. Among the dead was an African-American sailor named Crispus Attucks. Many people think of Crispus Attucks as the first person killed in the fight for the colonist freedom. Oliver, a Boston silversmith, known for his simple and beautiful work, supported the colonists. He made a picture of the shooting entitled it "The Bloody Massacre." A massacre is the killing of many people who cannot defend themselves. The shooting soon became known as the Boston Massacre. All rise. Please seated. All rise for the honorable judge. Stop. Please seated.
Case number 351770. Good afternoon. Today we are trying the case of people in Boston versus the British redcoat soldiers. The people of Boston are charging the British redcoats with the murder of 5 colonists. Prosecution may adjust the case with their opening statement.
Good morning, Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Benjamin Lee. I'm an attorney prosecuting the British soldiers and Parliament for their role in the senseless, brutal murder of 5 colonial men. Why, you may ask? Should the King of England and Parliament also be held accountable? Well, it is true. The soldiers used their weapons and massacred these innocent young men. The king, as well as his governing body, placed them in this impossible setting. But for now, we will focus on just the soldiers who cowardly used their muskets to take young lives away. To fire upon a crowd is senseless and uncalled for. These British soldiers knew the young colonists were anxious and many of them unarmed. These innocent dead men were simply at the wrong place at the wrong time. These men dreamed of self-government. These men dreamed of being treated with respect and dignity as they begged for freedom and independence. What price did they pay to have their dreams fulfilled? They paid with their lives. They died because the British soldiers cowardly shot into a crowd, destroying not only young men's dreams of hope, but all chances for these brave young men to have a chance to live life at all. I will prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that these British soldiers are guilty of murder by the killing of these young, innocent men. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Defense may adjust the jury with their opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Your Honor, this is a criminal case, but the wrong side is on trial. This is a case about the local colonial soldiers bullying and terrifying the British soldiers. The colonists shouted hateful comments to the British Army. The colonists threw snowballs, ice, and rocks at these soldiers. They tormented them on a daily basis with name-calling such as redcoats and lobsterbacks. The poor British were constantly harassed and threatened. How much can these exhausted, lonely young men take? Wasn't it bad enough they were missing their homes, families, and even their beds? Did they have to endure the mental and physical abuse the colonists subjected them to? These men were trying to please their king and follow his commands. What a sad, horrible, and quite terrifying situation they were forced in. Captain Preston went there on the night in question to protect his 9 soldiers. He was concerned about the trouble that had occurred during the day. He was simply doing his job. I will prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that the British Army and these fine young men did not do anything wrong. When shots were fired and 5 Bostonians had been hit, it was simply a mistake of fear and repeated abuse caused by the colonists.
Miss Park, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Mr. Benjamin Wright.
Do you swear to tell the chief, the whole chief, and nothing but the chief, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
Good morning, Mr. Burden.
Good morning.
Where were you on the night of March 5th?
I came to King Street about 9 o'clock. I saw the soldiers around the Sentinel.
Were you able to speak with any of the soldiers?
Yes. I asked one soldier if his gun was loaded. He said yes. Then I asked if he would fire, and he said yes.
Did you hear the word fire?
I heard the word fire, and I'm sure that it came from behind the soldiers. The word fire was a command, not just a human yelling fire.
Thank you, Mr. Burden. No further questions, Your Honor.
Miss Huff. Miss Huff, would the defense like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Burdick.
Good morning.
What did you hear the captain say after the first shot was fired?
I saw and heard him say, "Stop firing. Do not fire anymore."
Did the people do anything to endanger the soldiers?
Not in my opinion. Before the firing, I saw a stick thrown at the soldiers.
A stick or 3-foot-long branch like this that could have been used as a weapon?
I suppose.
Your Honor, the defense would like to present this as a piece of evidence.
Thank you, Miss Huff. Bailiff, can you please type the evidence?
Did you hear the word fire ever come out of Captain Preston's mouth?
I heard the word fire come from behind the soldiers, and it sounded like his command.
Exactly. You never saw it or heard it come out of his mouth. I have no further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Miss Park, would you like to re-examine your witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. When the massacre was over, 5, you stayed behind for quite some time. Why?
I wanted to stay behind and burn every memory in my mind so that when a day like today came, I would be able to give my account of what happened on that terrible day.
Thank you, Mr. Burdick. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Burdick. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Miss Cagle, would the prosecution like to call its next witness?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. The prosecution calls Mr. Robert Gallagher. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may be seated. Good morning, Mr. Goddard.
Good morning.
Where were you March the 5th?
I was at the town square where I saw Captain Preston and 9 of his men.
What did you hear Captain Preston say?
I heard Captain Preston say, "Leave, or there will be murder."
Did you hear Captain Preston say any other words to the soldiers?
I heard Captain Preston say, "Fire," and a gun went off.
How are you sure that it was Captain Preston?
I saw an officer call the officer by the name, and that name was Captain Preston.
How close were you to Captain Preston?
I was so close, I could touch his face.
Did you see Captain Preston jump in front of the soldiers and yell, "No, what are you doing?"
No, I did not see or hear him.
Of course!
Objection, Your Honor. Irrelevant comments by the defense counsel.
Sustained. Please watch your comments, Miss Lance.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Miss Lance, the defense have to cross-examine the witness.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Goddard.
Good morning.
Did you see Captain Preston's lips move and him say the word fire?
Yes.
Did you see the people of Boston hitting the soldiers with 3 feet long sticks, ice rocks, and snowballs?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Goddard, are you loyal to the Crown or the people of Boston?
I am definitely loyal to the people of Boston.
Well, that's interesting. I'm glad to know your loyalty, sir.
Objection, Your Honor. Mrs. Lance's opinions have no relevance in this case.
Sustained. Let's stick to the questions, Miss Lance.
Sorry, Your Honor. Mr. Goddard, were you in the crowd or were you an innocent bystander?
I was in the crowd.
So, Mr. Goddard, you were a part of the riot?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you also throwing things and yelling at the poor soldiers who were just doing their job, Mr. Goddard?
No.
So, Mr. Goddard, you were not an active part of the riot?
Yes.
Pretend I'm Captain Preston. Come and show me how close you were to him. Thank you, you may sit. So let me get this straight. You are a Bostonian, loyal to Boston people. You were downtown in the midst of a riot, and you claim you did nothing. But you were able to see and hear the word fire?
Objection, Your Honor. Is there a question here?
Sustained. During Miss Lance's last comment.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Goddard. You may step down. Mr. Green, would you like to call your next witness?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. The prosecution calls William Wyatt.
Before I told you, nothing but the truth. So help you God. And never see you.
Good morning, Mr. Wyatt.
Good morning, sir.
Did you hear Captain Thomas Preston yell fire on March 5th in Town Square?
Yes,
How can you be so sure it was Captain Preston? who
I
yelled
know
fire?
that Captain Preston yelled fire because I was watching him and the privates. I saw the private get knocked down. Then I heard Captain Preston yell fire. The soldiers did not fire. He yelled fire again and still nothing. Finally, he stomped his foot in front of his men and shouted, "Fire! Fire, you bloods, and let the consequences so as they may."
How can you be so sure it was Captain Preston?
The officer, to the best of my knowledge, has full armor, just like every officer wears.
Thank you, Mr. Wyatt. I have no further questions.
Mr. Walton, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Wyatt.
Hello.
Did you see any of the British get severely hurt?
Objection, Your Honor. Severely misleading the witness.
Overlook, I'd like to hear please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you see any of the British get severely hurt?
Not severely, but I saw him getting knocked down.
How many times have you come in contact with Captain Preston?
None. I only saw him that day.
Did you hear Captain Preston's voice before March 5th?
No.
You stated that you saw Captain Preston's garage, but how can you be positive it was his voice?
Hey, I can only say what I saw and heard.
How
How many people do you think were around when you heard Captain Preston?
200.
Wow, that's a lot of people to try and listen through.
Objection, Your Honor. Counselor's opinion.
Mr. Lowell, you may wrap this up.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
You may step down, Mr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Defense, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense calls for Mr. Richard Collins to the stand.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may be seated.
Good morning, Mr. Ball.
Good morning.
Do you believe that Captain Preston went down to the square to fire upon the colonists that night?
Captain Preston said to me that by no means shall I intend to fire on the inhabitants of this city.
Did you see any weapons that day that could have harmed any of the soldiers?
Yes, ma'am. I saw heavy and dangerous snow and ice balls strike Captain Preston's right hand while he was surveying the crowd. The people had other weapons too.
Why do you believe Captain Preston fired that night?
I believe that Captain Preston and the soldiers fired that night in defense of their lives.
Is it true that you witnessed the people fighting back as the redcoats were trying to calm the crowd?
Yes, but there was one soldier to about every 50 men. Obviously not enough men to control such a crowd.
Objection, Your Honor. Mr. Palms has no idea how many men it would take to control the crowd.
Overruled. I'll allow the question relates to the scene that night.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is it true that you witnessed the people fighting back as the redcoats were trying to calm the crowd?
Yes, but there was one soldier to about every 50 men. Obviously not enough men to control such a crowd.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the loudest and 0 being the quietest, how loud was it?
It would be more like a 15 minute.
Then, do you believe the chaos of the situation caused you not to be able to hear who gave the order to fire?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Mr. Rahal, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Palms.
Hello.
So you said you saw Captain Preston get struck on the right hand with a ball of ice. What happened next?
He stepped back 1 foot and fired the first gun.
After the first gunshot was fired, where was Captain Preston?
Captain Preston stood in front of me halfway between the breech and the muzzle of the guns.
Mr. Palms, can you please step away from the witness box? If the judge's bench were Captain Preston's men, can you please place yourself as close to the bench as you were on March the 5th? Thank you. You were quite close. Did you hear Captain Preston give the order to fire?
I told you, Your Honor, that I heard the word fire after the first gun was fired. I heard the word fire, but who gave it, I do not know.
So refresh my memory. You're saying you heard no one say fire until after the first gunshot?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Objection, Your Honor. Mrs. Wayhill's opinion does not matter.
Sustained. Mr. Rahal, wrap it up.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Palms, and Ms. Dempsey.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Would the defense like to call its next witness?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the defense calls Mr. Theodore Bliss.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. You may be seated.
Good morning, Mr. Bliss.
Good morning.
Theodore, why were you at the town square on March the 5th, 1770?
I went to the town square because I heard the alarm bell for fire.
Why do you believe other colonists went to the town square that night?
I believe some of the colonists were already there because they said they were going to fight.
One soldier was struck by a stick and stepped back and fired. Why do you believe he stepped back after being struck?
I believe he stepped back due to being hit by a stick. However, I do know he couldn't step back to fire, but in my opinion, it was the stick.
Theodore, did you hear the word fire?
Yes.
Exactly.
Objection, Your Honor. We do not need Mr. McBride's opinion.
Sustained. That's enough out of you, Mr. McBride. Please continue with your questioning.
Theodore, did you hear the word fire?
Yes. I heard the word fire many times, but I don't know whether it came from the captains, soldiers, or the people.
Do you think someone in the mob could have yelled fire?
It is certainly possible someone in the mob could have yelled fire, but I'm not sure.
Who do you think could have yelled fire?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Sustained. Next question, Ms. Berman.
Where were you during this event, and how close are you to the shooting?
I was standing far to the right of Captain Preston.
Please demonstrate where you were that night. Use the judge's bench as a reference for the front of the soldiers. Thank you. Mr. Bliss, where did you see Captain Preston?
I saw him on the far left.
Thank you, Mr. Bliss. Thank you, ma'am. What did you see him do next?
I saw him jump up in front of his soldiers after the first shot was fired.
One last question. Did you hear him say anything?
Yes, I heard him tell them to stop firing.
Thank you for your time, Theodore. Thank you, and I have no further questions.
Mr. McBride, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Bliss.
Hello, sir.
Mr. Bliss, is it true that you were staying close to Captain Preston?
Yes, sir. I was talking to him.
Well, Theodore, would you say that you know Captain Preston's voice?
No, I have never known him before this.
Do you believe that Captain Preston went to the square to kill those innocent people that night?
No, I believe he was just there to protect the King's army and his soldiers.
But is it true that Captain Preston told you that they were there with loaded guns and had weapons ready?
Yes, that is true.
Why do you believe the first shot was fired?
I believe the soldiers were afraid of the mob.
Do you know who fired the first shot?
Objection, Your Honor. The witness already testified. He did not know who yelled fire.
Sustained.
Theodore, are you loyal to the king or the people of Boston?
I am loyal to the king.
Is that so? Then why were you there?
I was at home when I heard the bells for fire.
What did you think of the angry crowd of colonists, Theodore?
I believe they were rioting against the king.
Were you in the mob or behind the soldiers?
I was next to the soldiers.
Theodore, last question. Do you know who shot first?
No, I already told you that twice.
Objection, Your Honor. Badgering the witness.
Sustained. Mr. McBride, you will not ask that question again.
Theodore, thank you for your time. I have no further questions.
Mr. Bliss, you may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This object will prevent sexual violence services witness.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Defense called Daniel Cornwell for the state. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may be seated. Good morning, Mr. Cornwell. Good morning. Where were you on March 10th, 1770? I was in the town square within 2 yards of Captain Preston. How did you know it? Captain Preston is my commanding officer. What were the first words you heard concerning fire that night? I heard don't fire. I was sure at first my captain did not order fire, and now I firmly believe it. Even though you believe your captain did not give the order to fire, did you fire? No. I was afraid for my life, but I did not fire because the captain did not order me to do so. Why were you afraid for your life? I was afraid for my life because the colonists were angry and about to attack. What actions did the colonists do to make you so afraid? They were throwing ice balls and snowballs at us. I saw some of my fellow soldiers fall down and get hit by not only snowballs, rocks, and ice balls, but large sticks they used as weapons. Sticks similar to this one and turned into evidence? Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Cornwell. I have no further questions.
Miss Wilcoxon, would you like to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Cornwell.
Good morning.
Where were you on March the 5th?
I was in a town hall, within 2 yards away from Captain Preston.
How were you sure it was Captain Preston?
Captain Preston is my commanding officer.
How can you be sure you did not hear him say fire?
I was near him, and I know I did not hear his voice.
You said you thought you did not hear him say fire. How can you be sure?
I said I know he did not say fire. I was within 2 yards of Captain Preston at the town square, and I know what I heard.
Yes, but there was a lot going on that night. The captain could have moved.
Objection, Your Honor. That really a question.
Sustained. Let's stick to the question, Miss Wilcoxon.
Could you identify all the soldiers around you that night?
No, I could not.
Then how are you sure it was not the captain who gave the orders fire?
I couldn't get a good look through all of the yelling and the action, but I know it wasn't the captain's voice because I know his voice.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Cornwell. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Defendant, would you like to come to the defendant, please? Defendant, would you like to come to the defendant to the stand?
Yes, Your Honor. We call Captain James Preston to the stand.
Order in the court. Control yourself and you'll be asked to leave.
The Holy Spirit, the nothing but so help you God. May be seated.
Good morning, Captain Preston.
Good morning.
What did you see as you approached the town square that night?
A large mob of angry colonists.
About how many people did you see in the mob?
Around 200.
What kind of weapons were the colonists using?
I saw huge clubs, chunks of ice, and large rocks.
How did the Bostonians act?
Many of them were out of control. They had been in pubs drinking all day and their tempers were flared.
Objection, Your Honor. Captain Preston can't possibly know what every man was doing that day.
Sustained. Jury ignored that last comment.
Thank you, Your Honor. Why do you believe they assembled on the evening of March the 5th?
I believe they assembled to pick a fight with my soldiers. They had been harassing them all day.
What kind of harassing things were the columns yelling?
They were calling us lobsterbacks, redcoats, and basically telling us to get out.
Did you come to Boston looking for a fight?
No, I did not expect this at all. I was just trying to do my job. I was trying to protect my men and the king's money.
Did you bravely jump in front of your men during open fire to command them to stop firing?
Yes, because I didn't order them to fire in the first place.
Had some of your men been knocked down or brutally trampled to death?
Objection, Your Honor. Leading the witness using the word brutally.
Sustained. Please rephrase the question, Ms. Parker.
Captain Preston, did you see your men get knocked down?
Yes.
Were you afraid your men could have been trampled by the crowd?
Absolutely.
One last question. Did you order your men to fire that night?
I absolutely did not give the order to fire.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Miss Eckerly, you may cross-examine the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hello, Captain Preston.
Oh,
Why do you believe your men fired upon the unarmed and helpless citizens of Boston?
Objection, Your Honor. We've already entered into evidence its stick that would the weapon. They were not unarmed.
Overruled. I'd like to hear what Captain Preston's answer.
Why do you believe your men fired upon the unarmed and helpless citizens of Boston?
I have no knowledge of why my men fired except to say they were frightened.
Why were your guns loaded if you weren't looking for trouble?
It is and was my responsibility to keep my men safe. It would have been irresponsible of me to send my men into a hostile situation with no means to protect themselves.
Why did you give the order to fire on the helpless citizens that night?
I did not give the order to fire.
Liar! Liar! He's a liar! Captain Preston is a liar!
Balance. Bailiff, please remove that man.
Order in the court!
Why do you believe the townspeople rang the fire bell that night?
I believe they rang the fire bell that night because they wanted more people to gather there to intimidate our soldiers.
You wanted to intimidate your men?
Yes.
Did you see the colonists with guns that night?
No, but they were angry.
That's not my question. Did you see guns?
No.
What did you see the colonists carrying?
They were armed with clubs, tree branches, ice, and snowballs.
So you decided to bring guns to a snowball fight?
Objection, Your Honor. Is that a relevant question?
Sustain, stop with the sarcasm, Miss Accolade.
Sorry, Your Honor, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Miss Escalade, does the case accused rest?
Yes, Your Honor.
This part does the defense rest? Yes. Thank you, attorneys, for presenting your witness to the court. Now would the prosecution please address the jury with their closing statement?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Your Honor, I have proven to you beyond a reasonable doubt that the British Army brutally shot and murdered innocent men. The British Army massacred in cold blood innocent men by recklessly firing into a crowd. They knew what they were doing. They were the bullies. They had been roaming the streets of Boston for months, terrorizing the colonists with their fancy uniforms and muskets. This was no accident like the defense attorney tried tricking you into believing. This was a whole cold and heartless act of murder. Actions have consequences. I trust you will do the right thing and find the British soldiers guilty. Guilty because they are murderers. They took away men's lives and hopes for a future self-government and freedom. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Defense, please address the jury with their closing statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Your Honor, I have proven with my evidence that the British soldiers did not mean to kill any colonists. They were exhausted. They were missing their families and their homes. They were afraid for their lives. We may never know who started fire, but we do know the British soldiers meant no harm to the citizens of Boston. It is unfortunate, but we cannot blame a young man for being afraid and doing the only thing he could do to protect himself. Can anyone here say they wouldn't have done the same thing? Of course not. It is our right as Englishmen to protect ourselves. I know you will do the right thing and find Captain Thomas Preston innocent of these charges. Thank you.
Jury, this is your time to leave the courtroom and deliberate over the facts you were presented with today. As you heard, people of Boston are challenging the British approach with the murder of 5 colonists. Your job is to decide if that change is more worth it beyond a reasonable doubt. Please dismiss the jury.
All rise for the jury.
Murder of 5 colonists.
After listening to the evidence presented in the courtroom today, we find the Sons of Liberty to be not guilty.
Not guilty! That's okay. Captain Thomas Preston is not guilty. Now you read your thing. Listen up.
Closing remarks for the Boston Massacre. Recorded history shows that after 2.5 hours of celebration, the jury acquitted Captain Thomas Preston. There was not enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he had been given the orders to fire that night. Later, Privates Kilroy and Montgomery were found not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter, and the death of Crispus Attucks. The court ordered that they would be branded on their thumbs with the letter M. The mystery of who actually gave the orders to fire was solved after the trial. Shortly before he left Boston, Privates Montgomery admitted to his lawyer it was he who cried fire after he'd been knocked down by a throat stick. Thank you.